Good afternoon, class. Welcome to history class. Our topic of discussion this afternoon is Arabs and the spread of Islam in Nigeria. And before we look at the history of Islam, we'd like to take an introduction to this particular topic. We all know that the founder of Islam is Prophet Muhammad. So we'd like to have a general view on who Prophet Muhammad was before the beginning of the religion called Islam. So Prophet Muhammad, as he is fondly called by his followers, was born in Mecca, but no precise date was given as to when he was born. However, we are told that his father was called Abdullah and his mother Amina. However, his father died even before he was born, and his mother equally died shortly after his birth. So he was taken care of by his grandfather called Abdul Muttalib. And shortly again, his grandfather equally passed away. So his uncle was left with the responsibility of raising him up. And the name of his uncle was Abu Talib. Now, in the course of his stay with his uncle decided to take him on a business tour with him to Syria. And while they were at Syria, he took opportunity to study Christianity and Judaism. And he equally learned about the culture of other peoples in Syria. Now, when they came back to Mecca, he spent much of his time looking after the cattle of his uncle in the desert. And we are told that he was so committed, so dedicated to looking after his uncle's cattle. And because of that, he was nicknamed Al-Amin, which means the trustworthy. That's the meaning of Al-Amin. Now, because of his dutifulness to that particular work, it attracted the attention of a widow that we call her Khadija. Now, Khadija invited Muhammad to her house and offered him a job. And in order to supplement his income, the little income he gained from his father, he accepted the job. And what was that job all about? It was to head the caravan, the trade caravan that was leaving Mecca to Syria. So it was to head that particular caravan. I've already explained to you what a caravan is when we are discussing trans-Saharan trade. Now, because he was so committed to that particular caravan trade of the widow, it attracted the affection of the widow to Prophet Muhammad. And at the age of 25, he got married to the widow. And at that time, she was 50 years of age. Now, their union or their marriage was blessed with 6 children, 2 boys and 4 girls. Unfortunately, all the children died very young, except a daughter called Fatima. She was the only one that survived. All the rest had passed away. Now we are told that there was a time that Muhammad would always retire to a particular cave near Mount Hira, where he will pray and meditate. Every day he would go to that particular cave to pray and to meditate. Now, during one of such prayers and meditation, he claimed that he was called by God, and you know the Muslims call God Allah, and that God was calling him into a new religion, and that God asked him to equally spread the religion. Now the religion was all about belief in one God. Now after he received that message from Allah, he returned home And after returning home, he started sharing his revelation with people around him. Now, when he shared his revelation with others, it attracted persecution, hatred, opposition to him. Because the revelation came at a time that the whole of Arabia believed in polytheism. That is, they believe in many gods. So, people were surprised that it was at that particular time that Muhammad was renouncing his belief in polytheism. So they persecuted him very, very well. Now, because of the opposition that he faced from people around him, he was left with no option than to perform what we call hijrah. He fled from Arabia, Saudi Arabia, to Mecca. And that particular hijrah took place on the 2nd of July, 622 AD. You can see 622 AD was after the birth of Jesus Christ. Jesus had come, had walked, and had left. So his own ministry, so to speak, or new religion, started in 622 AD. So he had to run for his dear life. Now, he ran to a place, as I earlier said, called Medina. Now, while he was at Medina, he was given a warm reception by the people of Medina. So he quickly settled down and built one of the biggest mosques in Medina. Now, after building that particular mosque, he used the mosque to propagate his new faith alongside his wife. Now, unfortunately for Prophet Muhammad, he died in 632 AD. Now, after his demise, he was succeeded by 4 scholars. Now, these scholars are Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. Now, it was one of these scholars that brought the religion of Islam in Africa. Now, it was Omar who brought the religion to Africa. Now, from North Africa, the religion diffused, or it spread to other parts of Africa, including West Africa and Nigeria, which is our focus in this particular discussion. Now, that takes me to Islam in Kanem-Borno. Now, in our study of the first Kanem-Borno Empire and the second Kanem-Borno Empire, I told you clearly that Kanem-Borno as an empire happens to be the first kingdom to accept Islam. And Islam came to Kanem-Borno in the 11th century AD. Even though some scholars argued that the religion came to Kanem-Borno much earlier than this particular date, but the religion became so pronounced in the 11th century. Why? Because one of the kings, called Malhume Jilmi, was converted, or he accepted Islam and became born again in the Islamic faith. That is why they regard the 11th century as the date in which Islam was introduced in Kanem-Borno. Now, what happened after Malhume Jilmi was converted to Islam? Of course, being a Muslim now, a Muslim king, he made effort, concerted effort in order to promote the religion in his own kingdom. How did he do that? Well, you know, the teaching of Islam requires that as a true and a committed believer, you have to perform what we call the pilgrimage. So he promoted pilgrimage, going to the holy city in Mecca, as a sign of demonstrating his faith in the new religion, and he did that diligently. Aside that, other appointments in his kingdom were based on Islam. Now, what am I trying to say? That the introduction of Islam in Kanem-Borno affected her politically, culturally, religiously, economically, and all facets of life, that the new religion affected them. Now, because of the rate at which the king promoted Islam, the capital, Ngazargamu, as we all know, became a center for Islamic scholarship. And one of the biggest mosques was erected, and that particular mosque could house about 5,000 worshippers on Friday. Now, the mosque again was also used in order to promote the new religion, because each time worshippers gather, they use the opportunity to preach to them and to tell them about the tenets and the principles of Islam. Now that does it on Islam in Kanamboro. The next one is Islam in Hausa land. Now, in Hausa land, let me quickly clarify something, that Kanamboro has never been treated as part of Hausa land, because it was an independent kingdom on its own. So each time we mention Hausa land, please don't confuse Borno with Hausa. It's not part. That is why even today, the Shehu of Borno is not answerable to the Sultan of Sokoto. It's an independent kingdom on its own. Now, that is why we take Kanamboro out of Hausa land. Even though they speak Hausa, they are Fulanis there, but majorly they are Kanuris. So you don't treat them as part of Hausa land. So let's quickly look at Islam in Hausa land. Now, just like it happened in Kanamboro, Islam came to Hausa land in the 14th century. And the religion was brought by Islamic missionaries from, that we call them Wangarawa, and this Wangarawa or the Diola were from Mali. So it was very easy for them to cross the Sahara to the northern part of Hausa land or northern Nigeria. Of course, you know places like Kano, you know places like Katsina, you know they share boundaries with places like Chad here. So it was very easy for them to cross and then spread the gospel, most especially during the trans-Saharan trade, where they were coming with their commodities in exchange to what was produced in northern Nigeria. Now, the first king in Hausa land to be converted to Islam was the king of Kano called Sarki Yaji. He was the first king in Hausa land to accept Islam and got born again in the Islamic faith. Now, after accepting the religion, he also made effort, just like my woman Jilmi of Kanamboro, in order to promote the religion. How did he promote that? Again, he also embarked on what we call the pilgrimage. Secondly, he ensured that Quranic schools were built all over Kano, and children were trained, they were exposed to the Arabic art of learning, so that the religion will be promoted. Now, after his demise, then he was succeeded by Muhammad Rumfa. Again, Rumfa followed in the footsteps of Sarki Yaji and also promoted the religion. Now, Muhammad Rumfa, in order to demonstrate his ardent belief in the religion, invited an Islamic scholar that we call him Al-Magili from Egypt. Now, this scholar was meant to train the Sarki, that is Muhammad Rumfa himself, on the art of governance. And the art of governance was based on Sharia law. That's the Islamic code of law. That was the law that they used, the Sharia law. So, since he was not so exposed in that particular religion, he needed a guidance. He needed somebody who was well learned in that particular law to tutor him, to lecture him, to expose him on how to go about ruling his people. Now, when Al-Magili came, he discussed with the king and eventually decided to write a book that we call it Obligations of the Princes. It's already written here, Obligations of the Princes. Now, the book was all about steps that the king will use, or it was just like the code of conduct, of course, that you use. You know, it guides your behavior, it guides your movement, and everything of yours around the school area. It was the same kind of book that he wrote, but that particular one has to do with governance. So that was the book that Muhammad Rumfa was using in governing his people. Now, after writing that particular book and spending some time with the king in Kano, Al-Magili decided to visit Katsina and also deliver lecture to so many people who gathered to hear him talk to them. And all these were equally ways of promoting the new religion. Now, another scholar who also came from Egypt was Abdul Rahman Zapeti. As I said, he was equally from Egypt. He visited places like Kano, Zaria, Katsina. And while he was in Katsina, the king of Katsina, appointed him as his personal advisor so that he could to advise him on what steps to take and what steps not to take. So, like he did in Kano, it was like the same thing he did in Katsina, but this time around, it was not a book he wrote, but the king appointed him as his personal advisor. So he was going to be with him on a daily basis, and then he could to guide him on the needful. Now, that takes us to the next subtopic, which is ways of spreading Islam. How do they spread the faith? Now, the first way is through trade, or was through trade. As I said, through the Trans-Saharan trade. Mostly were the Arabs, the Berbers from North Africa that were coming. So they used their trade in order to preach the Islamic faith to people of those that they deal with as their customers. Another one is through pilgrimage. Now, pilgrimage is visiting the holy city at least once in a lifetime. As a committed Muslim or as a faithful believer in the Islamic faith, you are supposed to pay a visit to Mecca at least once in a lifetime. Then another one is through diplomacy, or what we call persuasion. It's not through force. They continue to talk to you, continue to appeal to you until you are able to surrender or you admit that yes, you have seen light in this particular religion and you would want to join. Then another one is through Islamic festivals. Of course, we know they have so many festivals that they organize, and they use such festivals again to promote their religion. Now, another one is tax exemption. Once you surrender, or the privilege or the benefit they give to those who accept the religion is to exempt them from paying tax. Now, that's to force those who refuse the religion to surrender their lives to the religion, because so long as you refuse, you continue to pay tax, and in some instances you will be charged higher tax. So you'll be left with no option than to accept the religion so as to be exempted from payment of tax. Another one is wearing of robes, or what we call jalabia, or sometimes is what we call the turban. Only Muslims were allowed to wear that, and anybody that was seen wearing the robe or the turban was highly respected in the society. And as a mark of honor, everybody will want to associate himself with that particular religion. Then the next one was through the use of charms, or what we call talismans. Mostly the traders that came, they convinced the people that there are things you could tie around your waist and it will attract customers to you. And because of that, so many people who were so desperate to sell their commodities, believe that if they accept the religion and with the assistance of such talismans or charms, their business will prosper. So that was another way. Now the last one is what we call jihad. Now jihad means holy war against unbelievers. Now jihad is force. You use force against those who refuse to accept the religion. You force them to accept the religion. If they cannot accept it in peace, they must accept the religion through war. So you carry weapons against them, you fight them until they are able to surrender to you and then accept the religion. Now, the next topic is factors that aided the spread of Islam. That will be the next topic that we will be discussing. Factors that aided the spread of Islam. The factors that aided the spread of Islam is that Islamic missionaries did not discriminate against Africans. In Christianity, we know that most of the white missionaries who brought the religion, they looked down on their African converts. But it was not the same thing with the Islamic faith. They embraced all the Africans and treated them as one and equal. Then, point number 2, the religion did not condemn polygamy. In fact, they rather encourage it. You can marry up to 4 wives. If you are tired with one, you can release her, marry another one. So, the religion was so appealing, most especially to those who like women. So they quickly accepted the religion because the religion was in line with their already established culture. Then the third one is that the missionaries were believed to possess or to have mystic powers. As I said earlier, some of the Islamic missionaries, some of them had charms and talismans, and those talismans and charms were believed to possess some powers. In fact, an Islamic preacher was seen as someone who could even command rain to fall during periods of drought, and that he could heal some ailments like that mystically. So people being a traditional society believe in such powers, and they were just flocking into those missionaries who came with all those charms and things like that. Then number 4 is that Islamic scholars were employed in the ruler's palace or the courts. Now, those scholars were placed in strategic positions so that they would use their positions to continue to have conversation or to discuss with those working under them. And together with the rulers, those scholars manipulated their ways and equally manipulated the subjects. In fact, in Kano itself, the Muhammad Rufa declared Islam as a state religion. That was the only religion he recognizes, and he had to follow what those scholars told him, especially that book that was written, that I told you, the obligation of the princes. So he declared the religion a state religion. So whoever that failed or refused to accept the religion, you will not be appointed into any serious position in government. You will be treated as a second-hand citizen in your own particular kingdom. So that's one of it. Then number 5 is that Christianity, at the time that Islam was brought, was suffering from doctrinal division. There was division. The Catholics, the Protestants. There was just division in the church as to what doctrine to adopt. So that particular doctrine caused serious division among Christians, and Islamic missionaries took advantage of that. And before the Christians could settle in Europe to even think of taking the gospel outside Europe, Islam had already gotten a foothold in Africa. Then the last but not the least, the believers in the new religion, that's the Islamic faith, were told that whoever died in a jihad, it was an honor. Why? 1, if you die fighting a jihad, you will go to paradise. Number 2, there will be 70 virgins waiting for you, or there were some pleasures that await you in the world beyond, or in the next world. So people were not scared of anything. They were not even scared of carrying arms against the unbelievers, because even if they die, at least their religion told them that it was an honor and that you will equally go to paradise, and there was a lot of enjoyment waiting for you. So it was nothing for anybody to die. So most of them just embraced the religion, and once they persuade you to accept the religion and you fail to comply, the next thing is to apply the last strategy, which is jihad, to compel you to accept the religion. Now, what are the main teachings of Islam? Now, that's our next topic, the main teachings of Islam. The first one is belief in one supreme God, that there is only one supreme God. And who is that one supreme God? Earlier I told you that the founder of the Islamic faith was Prophet Muhammad. Now, just believe it that one of the major teachings of Islam is belief in one supreme God. If you hear them shouting Allah Akbar, what it means is that there is only one supreme God, or Allah is great. Now, the next teaching is that the Muslims believe that there were so many prophets of God who appeared before Prophet Muhammad. Of course, they believe in Abraham, they believe in the existence of Moses, but they believe that the greatest of all the prophets, or the one that God appeared to last, who happens to be the greatest, was Prophet Muhammad. So they believed in Prophet Muhammad more than any other prophet that preceded the arrival of Prophet Muhammad. Now the last but not the least is that they believe in equality of men, that all men are equal, especially those who accept the Islamic faith, then they are all equal. And as a true believer of Islam, you are not supposed to enslave a fellow Muslim, but you can enslave a non-believer or an infidel. That one is not a sin, but you cannot enslave a true and worshipper of Islam. Now, the next thing is duties of a faithful believer in Islam. Once you accept the religion, what is required of you? Now, the first thing is that prayer 5 times a day. You must pray 5 times a day. And before such prayers, there are some rituals that you ought to perform. Now, what are some of those rituals? You must wash your hands, you must wash your feet, and some other parts of the body too. You have to wash them before you go into the mosque or the holy ground where you intend to have the prayers. Now, the second duty is fasting, to fast, most especially during the Ramadan. Now, during the Ramadan, every believer is supposed to embark on a dry fast. You are not supposed to eat, you are not supposed to drink. And from dawn till night. And you are equally not supposed to have sex in the daytime. It's also prohibited. Now, the third duty is pilgrimage. As I earlier said, you are supposed to at least embark on a pilgrimage. You visit the holy city at least once in a lifetime as a believer in Islam. Then the next one is giving of alms, especially to the poor. It's a duty required of a true believer of Muslim. You assist the less privileged, you support them, you care for them. Whatever gift you have, you give it, and Allah will bless you greatly for that. Now, what are the things forbidden in Islam? There are certain things that as a faithful believer in the new religion or in the Islamic faith, you are not supposed to do. Now, one of that is idolatry. It's not permitted in Islam. Adultery is not permitted in Islam. The use of intoxicants, you take something that will taunt you and will cause your direction of thinking, is also not permitted in Islam. And we have killing of infants, especially twins. You are not supposed to touch them. These are some certain things that are forbidden in Islam. Now, let's have the last subtopic under this discussion. Now, the last subtopic is impact or effects of Islam on Nigeria. The impact or effects of Islam on Nigeria. Now, the first impact is that Islam as a religion promoted or it fostered unity among all the states in northern Nigeria. They see themselves as one. So an injury to one is an injury to all. Touch any of the states, all the northern states will gang up against you and beat you up because the religion itself has united them. That's point one. Point number two, it provided a common written language. What language? The Arabic language. All their books, their religious books, they are written in Arabic. Except for those who don't understand the Arabic language, then some interpretations are made in the Hausa language for easy comprehension. Then, number three, the introduction of Islam also linked northern Nigeria with North Africa and the Arabic world generally. They have a link. In fact, we know that in northern Nigeria, they always receive support from the Arabic world. Each time there is a problem, the Arabic world will support them because already the religion has united them, not only in Nigeria or in Africa, but all Islamic countries around the world. There is something in common that they have, and they will always stand by each other, they will always support each other. Now the next one is that it enhanced the growth of trade. Trade not only among themselves, but with North African countries, with the Arabic world. There are things that they even subsidize for them because of the religion. And all these are still ways of trying to promote the religion so that people will see the beauty of it and will rush for it. Then the next one is that Arabic culture of dressing, greetings, burial, and names were adopted, most especially in northern Nigeria. Now, when you hear somebody calling himself Muhammad, when you hear somebody calling himself Abubakar, Sadiq, all these names were never in existence before the introduction of Islam. They are names that they adopted after being Islamized, just like Christians changed their names during baptism. They took a new name. It's the same thing with the Muslims. Once you have accepted the religion, you can decide to change your name from the traditional name that you are used to a new name, which will go in line with the new religion. Then, on the issue of greetings, I know that when Islam came, there's a way you greet an elder. You don't just stand and then you greet an elder. You must show respect in greeting an elder, or your mother, or your father, or an elderly person. The religion came with that. Now, apart from that, the dressing is also there. You dress to reflect that you are a true Muslim. You will see the long robe that most of them wear. In Saudi Arabia, you see those crowns that they wear. And all of that is a symbol of identification as a true and an ardent believer in the religion. Now, another one that I must equally mention that was adopted in northern Nigeria is that those that accepted the new religion, each time they want to pee, they squat. Now, where did they get that? The truth of the matter is the Islamic missionaries who came through the through the desert. You know, the desert is a windy area. So you cannot stand and urinate. Because if you start to urinate, the wind will splash the urine back on you. So the best thing to do is to squat. So when they came to northern Nigeria, you know, it was a culture they were used to. And so when the new converts saw their missionaries squatting to pee, they thought it was part of the culture. So mostly when you see a true Muslim or any other believer in the religion around you, each time he wants to pee, he squat to pee, thinking it's already part of the religion. Now, the next one is that an elaborate system of taxation was adopted. You know, you pay haraji to the Seriki, that's for the emir. Today is emir. You pay haraji, and from the emir there are lists of officials who will go around all the villages, the districts, to collect all those taxes. And it was this same elaborate system of taxation that when Lord Lugard came, he used the system to introduce his indirect rule system, which was a massive success in northern Nigeria, because indirect rule wouldn't have succeeded without the taxation system that was already in place in northern Nigeria. Now, second to the last is what we call Islamic festivals replace traditional ones. Of course, you don't hear of traditional festivals like before. What you hear is Idil Kabir. You hear of all kinds of religious festivals today. Even among the Christians, the ones that are popular is Christianity. We have Easter. These are some of the festivals among Christians. So the Muslims equally have their own. They celebrate the Ramadan and the birth of Prophet Muhammad, as I earlier said. So these are some of the first festivals that replaced the traditional ones. Then the last but not the least is that the introduction of Islam later caused the jihad of Uthman Danfodio in the 19th century in northern Nigeria. Why? Because those that claim to be Muslims in the north, in the northern part of Nigeria, some of them were not practicing the religion correctly. Some were mixing it with paganism or traditional worship. So Uthman Danfodio took it upon himself to purify, to sanctify the practice of the religion. So if not that Islam was introduced in northern Nigeria, Uthman Danfodio wouldn't have had any basis to stage his jihad. But because they had already professed that they were Muslims and were not practicing the religion correctly, he needed to stage the jihad in order to correct all the ills that were being perpetrated in the course of practicing that particular religion. So stop here. In the next lesson, I intend to discuss the jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio with you, to go in line with the topic that we just finished.